Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And then in this video, we're going to look at one of my favorite films. Now, it's Black History Month. This book celebrates Africa in and of itself and protecting Africa, which is the reason I put it here. Also, the author, in some ways, tried to protect some of the native people of Africa. Unfortunately, some of the stuff, he was instrumental in creating a giant reserve. Unfortunately, kind of backfired. The people were kind of chased off because, of course, colonial governments. He had connections to the royal family through his primarily his friendship with the current queen's grandmother on her mother's side. So it was through the late Queen Mother's own mother that he knew. And then he did some stuff with the military and was in India. So he was obviously connected to the late Prince Philip's uncle. So, also known as a kingmaker. But, so that's his connection. And that's kind of that's where his knowledge went through. I am not going to cover the book because further research with him turns out, yeah, he had some issues. He was very big on fictionalizing other things about his life, and he did some unsavory things involving females. So we're going to stop that, but we're going to pay attention to the film. So let's look at this film. This is actually one of my favorites. This is A Far Off Place. Now, this stars a young Reese Witherspoon, because this film came out in 1993. So, and let's see. And Ethan Randall is the other main character here. So he's the young boy. So in this story, Reese Witherspoon, a young girl by the name of Nonnie, she's grown up in Africa near the Kalahari. She's been there all her life. Her parents run basically a reserve along with with the Africans. He shares profits with them, which is very, very unusual. So, and they're basically doing farming, but they're also fighting poachers. Her father's trying to do it through legal channels, and there's a friend of theirs who's essentially shooting poachers. Now, they're shooting elephants. They're going after ivory, and that is quite essential to this story. So right before the main part of the story happens, this friend of her parents comes with his son. Now, he's a widow, so the mother died when the boy was younger. So it's been a while. Now, he's wearing a Walkman. He's from New York, though he doesn't really have much of a New York accent. But he's miserable. And it's like, you're forcing me to spend like several weeks in the middle of nowhere where there's no television. And it's just, I'm stuck. And she's not particularly happy to have to deal with him either, because he's an obnoxious boy. She wants to go off with her father's friend. I think Zupani is the name of him. I'll bring this up, the cast here. Let's see. Find the main character. Mupani is the name of him, and he's shooting poachers. That's how the film begins. But what ends up happening is the night after Harry and his father arrive, she sneaks out with her dog, and Harry sees her, and he follows her. Now, before Harry catches up with her, she runs into her friend, who's a bushman, whose name is Zabu. And he's been attacked by a leopard. And she wants to bring him to the house. But he says, no, we have to go to cave. We have to go to this very special cave. And she's like, but you need antibiotics. So it's like, no, we have to go to this cave. Harry shows up. And she's like, go back to the house. And Zabu says, no, Harry must come to cave 2. Now, you had previously in the film seen him tapping his chest, and you hear screaming, and you hear Harry's name, and you kind of suspect something bad happens. So they go to this cave, and they spend the night here. She uses some natural remedies to help disinfect his wounds from being attacked again by a leopard, which he killed, but again, he was attacked by a leopard. So they stay in the cave, and then why Zabu and basically, I think it's in the morning, she tells him to stay put with Zabu, and she goes back to the house. Well, she sees people wandering around, stealing stuff. It's like, what the heck's goes on? She's able to sneak into the house. She finds Harry's father shot and both of her parents killed. And she, essentially, she tries to figure out what the heck is going on. She hears people talking. They know, basically mentioned, like, we can't find the girl or the boy. Like, where the heck are they? They can't be that far. She sneaks back down into the shed, and they've been trying to do, using explosive to make running water coming to the house. So she grabs some of the dynamite, and she basically blows up some of the cars, and actually I think ends up blowing up the house. Because again, she puts dynamite underneath cars, but they're sitting right next to the house, so they explode things. And she's able to get away. And however, they realize, like the head guy realizes that she's not dead. And they assume that Harry's not dead either, because they can't find him. So she gets back to the cave, lets Harry know. He's upset. It's like, my father's dead. And it's like, she assumes it has to do with the poachers. Because her father was about to go to the government with a whole bunch of paperwork and to stop these poachers. So they end up, it's like, okay, what the heck do we have to do? We have to get to the nearby city. They first try to go to the radio station, but the radio guy has been killed. So they have to cross the Kalahari. So it's this entire 2-month journey of them, Harry learning to use either a spear or a bow and arrow to kill a deer and skin it to get the meat, and uses the skin to make a vest for her, them kind of falling in love, and essentially their long journey with Nonnie, her dog, her friend Zabu, and Harry trying to cross the Kalahari. At one point in time, they hear a helicopter. They're near a tree. They hide under the tree. It's like, let's stop. We don't know, because we were being shot at. We don't know if this is safety. So Harry thinks, let's take off our clothes, stuff them with something, lay them out, and see what happens. And they shoot basically what they think is the kids' bodies. And she peeks out and realizes that one of the people in the helicopter is a man by the name of Ricketts, who you've already been introduced to. He was a friend of her father's. It's like, she's like, he's got to be behind the ivory. He killed our parents, because her father was going after the poachers, and they suspected that he was getting a big shipment. They were putting together a giant shipment. So, and that's why he hadn't moved anything yet. So now she realizes this is this guy. So they have to report this. So they, again, traveling across the Kalahari, they do run into another place where their dogs get chased. She loses her necklace. Harry helps rescue her dog, but turns out this was near the mine where Ricketts was storing the ivory. They're back in the desert, and they're nearly close. Zabu gets stung by a scorpion, and they're in the sand, dune after dune after dune. They're exhausted. They have to be close. And then the helicopters start coming. Kind of sees them, but Zabu chaps his chest, and it's almost assumed like there's magic, and it brings up a sandstorm, and they can't shoot at them, and they have to leave. And turns out they're very, very close. And the next thing you see all three of them assuming that basically they're going to die in the desert. But of course, it's a Disney movie. So a kid comes up, and he's pointing out, his sister comes up. They see essentially the bodies, or real life collapsed, of these 3 teenagers. And sister comes up, sees these calls for their mother, jumps forward. They're in the hospital, at this coastal town. The Zabus had an allergic reaction to the antibiotics they gave him to, or the antivenom they gave him to try to counteract the sting of the scorpion. And he's fine. And her friend shows up. What the heck do we have to bring in? Mupani, he's a colonel. He shows up, hugs her. It's like, you crossed the Kalahari. Like, yep, and survived. And that's when she reveals to him, it's like, it was Ricketts. He's the one we have to stop him. He was the one who's in charge of the poaching with all this ivory. So they get in a helicopter, they go to this mine where inside you see ivory everywhere. Thousands upon thousands of elephants died for these tusks. And they decide to essentially blow it up. That's what Nonnie says, like, we have to blow this up. These are bodies. We have to bury them. And then of course Ricketts shows up. And he's gonna shoot them, but Harry's kind of behind and he pushes a bunch of ivory on top of him. And they rig it to explode. And they drag Ricketts out and they light the fuse, and Ricketts gets away from them and starts running into them. He's like, you've got to be insane. You're blowing up. These are millions of dollars worth of ivory. And he runs after it, and obviously it dies because they explode the darn thing. And then it kind of ends with Harry having to go back to New York, and Nonnie, this is her home. So she's going back with her friend Mupani to restart what her parents had done on this farm, essentially. So, and then of course they say goodbye. And then of course you have the very end. One of the things that kind of important that Nonnie told him was, things that reminded her of home was when she was a baby, her mother put these birds in her bedroom to help sing her to sleep. And she's like, but I don't really remember them at night. I remember them in the morning. And that to her is home. So at the very end of the film, Harry shows back up with these birds. And essentially she hugs him, and that's how the film ends. It's a really good film. It's a coming of age story. It's a happy Disney movie with Reese Witherspoon. And it does show and respect for the Bushmen of Africa. It shows that, yes, he sees the future, he can rescue them, and he leads them back. And he, after the kids are safe, he goes back on his own. So, like, he's a Bushman. He knows the Kalahari. This is his home. It's easier for him to do things on his own. So, but it kind of shows you a little bit of their culture. But yes, it's very much a white person's teenage coming of age story with a little bit of a love story propped in. Because these kids are, I think, only about 16, I think is the age of the characters here. They're not that old. Not sure they ever stay. No, 14. So, yeah, she's 14. That means he's probably about the same age. So, they're 14 years old. So, which, again, they're weird questions of how the heck he would come back. And not to mention why the heck she was staying there, not sent back to the United States, probably where obviously her parents came from. But that's the plot hole at the end. But still, it's a happy Disney movie. Definitely coming age story. It's definitely shows Africa. I believe it was filmed in Zimbabwe. Let's see if I can see it. I think that's where it's, yeah. I think the film takes place in Zimbabwe. They obviously cross the Kalahari because that's where Zimbabwe is. Yawning here. Let's see. Is it telling me where on Earth? No. It never actually explains. Where is... Yeah, it's Namibia and Zimbabwe is where the filming takes place. So it has some really beautiful scenery. You do see some of the deadly deserts. And it's kind of a good story to represent that, yeah, poaching, nasty, and it doesn't show in detail. It does show the sadness of these poachers shooting animals and babies running around. That's the very beginning of the film. But it's a great coming of age story. It shows Africa. It's one of the films that make me love and want to see Africa. The other one I've already covered, which is I Dreamed of Africa. I covered both the book and the film on that one. So, and I was planning on covering the book in this one too, but I don't want to advertise even a dead author who's kind of nasty in many ways. So, and not to mention it's hard, I would have to have bought the book. It's very difficult it's kind of difficult to come by these days. I think I would only have to be able to get it in ebook form. So it's a little bit harder to come by and a bit of an adventure story. But still, it's a fantastic film. It's Disney. It's a family film. It's Disney. As much as I hate Disney, it's everywhere. So, and still, I enjoy this film for a very, very long time. So that's really it for this review. If you like what you see, I cover films like this, variety of other films, a lot of children's book reviews, a bunch of other stuff. Check out what I've got. Like and subscribe. I have a bunch more planned. Thank you.